If I could sit and go back with my 19-year-old self as a mom, I wouldn't hand her a textbook. I wouldn't tell her to be perfect. I would just say, you don't have to fight every battle. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of ABA Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Allie, a board certified behavior analyst and mom of 5. And today's episode is personal. It's something I've been thinking about a lot, especially with my oldest just turning 18 and getting ready to graduate high school. It feels so surreal. And let me just say this first. He is such a great kid, and I am so very proud of him. And nobody prepares you for what it feels like to have an adult child and how fast it goes. I know that they say you blink and they're grown up, and how real that actually feels. But when he was younger, I'm going to tell you, I had no idea what I was doing. I was 19, I was overwhelmed, and honestly, I was a yeller. I believed in many timeouts, I did lots of spanking, I believed in being firm, and I believed that if I didn't win at the moment, I was losing as a parent. And this was just what I was taught. This was the blueprint that was given to me. So I made a lot of mistakes, which I'm sure all parents do, and it's okay. And looking back now as a BCBA, I became a BCBA in 2020 during COVID. After years of learning behavior reinforcement, I definitely see things very differently and from a different lens than I did as a very young mom. There were so many things that I just didn't understand, and I didn't have a good grasp on behavior and behavioral science. I didn't understand emotional regulation, mine or his. And I would say as a young adult, I was not even emotionally regulated because my blueprint didn't have great emotional regulation either. So that was all you can do is what you know, right? So I didn't understand that most of what I was reacting to wasn't necessarily, and I'm going to put in quotation, air quotes, bad behavior or problem behavior. I was just reactive. And it was communication. It was overwhelmed. And I was a kid needing support and not control. And thankfully at the time I had my husband at the time, my grandparents. So I did have people in my life that were there to support me. But back then, everything felt like a hill I had to die on. So I wanted to earn things like respect and listening the first time. And so I would frequently repeat myself verbally and just say, do this, clean this up, clean this up, clean this up. And that's not helpful. Not talking back, doing things immediately. And I'm just going to say this. For my first child, Noah was amazing. So, and he got the toughest, probably the hardest part of me, figuring out being a mom and also just being a parent in general. And everything kind of just became a power struggle. And I think it was something internally. And I also just wanted him to respond and to listen to me the first time. So when he didn't respond or listen to me, I used to yell. And that is what I knew to do. So if I could go back, here are some things that I would have done totally differently. I would have paused more instead of reacting. I would have focused on connection before correction. I would have reinforced the behaviors I wanted to see instead of constantly pointing out what was wrong. I would have realized that yelling doesn't teach, it escalates. And honestly, I wouldn't have died on so many hills. I know I've said that before. I did a whole episode on dying on those hills. It's okay. Because there's truth that nobody tells you. Not everything is a teaching moment. Some things are just moments. And when you turn every moment into a battle, you miss the relationship right in front of you. So becoming a BCBA and also just getting into the field of ABA before I was even a BCBA really changed everything for me. I had a whole new perspective on parenting and what my beliefs were. And If I would have had this so much sooner, I think I would have done things so differently. It taught me to ask, because one of the basic principles of ABA is figuring out the function. So why does behavior happen? Like, why does this happen? Because everything we do is a behavior, whether it's a problem behavior or just behavior in general. So me talking to you right now, talking is a behavior. So everything we do and say is a behavior. So what is the function of behavior? Why does it occur? Not how do I stop it? It taught me that behavior is predictable based on an ABC model. So antecedent, whatever happens before a behavior, and the consequence. So the environment plays a huge difference on behavior. And instead of being reactive, I could have been more proactive. And kids respond different in different environments. So, and I also had my oldest had an ADHD diagnosis at the time, and I was really big on let's do homework, let's sit at the table, like this is a structured time. And then I started that when he was really little. He was very, very smart. Like he was reading before kindergarten, like could write his name. So we went through all those things. I taught him a lot of different things. He picked up skills really quickly, but when things were hard, he wouldn't necessarily want to try them. He would lose motivation very quickly. And I was very big at sitting at the table doing your schoolwork. And as I started to take courses in ABA and start to learn a little bit more, it didn't matter so much to me if he was sitting at a table doing schoolwork, right? You could do schoolwork on the floor. You could do schoolwork other places. You could do it at the park. So there's different places that maybe that could be done, and places where he might feel more comfortable, and also making it fun. Like it doesn't have to be boring. So, and I don't need to yell if you are struggling in a worksheet or you're stuck on a math problem. We can work through it, and those are all small problems. They're not big ones. So kids definitely respond to their environment the way that you react, the way that you model behavior. That reinforcement that you give them is more powerful than punishment every single time. And the biggest one, it taught me how to regulate myself first. If I'm going to be the model, to regulate myself first before I could ever expect my child to regulate. So remember that we're always the model for our children. So let's be real. There's a guilt that comes with this, because when you learn better, you realize what you could have done better. But I don't sit in it. I'm very proud of who he is, because I also know I showed up when I knew it was the time, and I kept growing. So we grew up together. That's the thing, is like I was very young, he was a baby, and we kind of grew up together. And that really matters. So if you're listening to this now and you ever make a mistake, you do the wrong thing, even if you know better, even if you know that's not what you should be doing, even if you are not a good model today and you are not regulated and you really should have taken a break because you're dysregulated or you're overstimulated yourself, it's okay, because we all make mistakes and we don't always get it 100% right. And knowing and growing is a huge part of parenting, because just like this is our first time having a child and it's their first time in life, it's our first time ever being a parent. So my son is now 18. It feels so unreal. I can't even believe it. And despite all the things I didn't know, all the moments that I think back and I wish I could redo, I also think about this. He's kind, he's respectful, and he's a very loving person, and he's not perfect, and neither am I. And it's not because I was perfect. But you know what? The bottom line is to keep trying, to keep doing better, to grow, and to just love your child. So yes, reinforcement always over punishment. Don't need to die on all the hills. Being able to regulate yourself, being able to know that you as the parent or caregiver, when to take breaks is so important. There's so many times where homework was a big one, when he struggled with certain things when he was little, when he started going to school, or like riding his bike. It took him a long time to ride his bike and he really didn't want to. So our deal was learn how to ride your bike and then I won't ever ask you to go on it again. And he has not been on a bike since he learned how to ride it, but we got the skill down. He doesn't want to use it. we're good there. But I am very proud of him for getting through it. I've used a lot of different motivators. It was very time consuming. It took a lot of patience. There were times that we needed breaks, that him and I both needed breaks for homework, for that. But one thing I've learned is the yelling, it doesn't help. Yelling is something added, it's a punishment, but there's no skills being taught when you're yelling. Honestly, it just overall makes people feel bad. So if you're in the thick of it right now and you're like, I don't know what to do, I'm yelling, I'm overwhelmed, yelling around, feeling like every moment matters so much, here's just what I want you to take away from this. You don't have to win every moment. You don't have to control everything. And you definitely don't have to die on every hill. Focus on the connection. So building a relationship is very important and keeping that relationship with your child. So one of the things that we do ABA when we come in the first time, and we're always at some level, we call it pairing. So building a relationship, right? So keeping that rapport. Because the last thing you want is somebody to come in and tell you to do a bunch of things. That usually doesn't work. So keeping that connection and keeping that relationship is more important. So you've got to build on that in order to teach new skills. So focus on the connection, consistency, being in a safe place, and the behavior will follow. Thank you guys so much for being here in this episode. Hit home, share with other moms and dads who need to hear it. And as always, you are not in this journey alone.